So with the recent events of the trade deadline, the Houston Rockets are going to be looking to develop their young piece to the fullest. They've fully given their young guys the keys, as vets like Eric Gordon, Garrison Matthews, and Bruno Fernando have all been traded. Specifically, Kenyon Jr., who has been on an absolute tear recently. He's been a huge contributor to this Rockets on both ends of the floor, as he's been able to impact the game heavily, whether it be passing at his size. I mean, he's been a pretty underrated passer, a great athletic finisher, and even knocking down the occasional three-point shot. He's able to just impact the game in ways that you don't expect him to, which is a great thing from a role player. And basically, that type of role player is what you want on a championship contending team, as he can basically do everything on the court that you want him to and can fit into any system. So in today's video, I'll explain how KJ has been a crucial piece to this young Rockets team and how his future is looking with the Houston Rockets. I would say, just briefly talking about it here, I would say it's looking pretty good, but with the uncertainty of the pick this year being basically in the top 5, we'll see what happens. But I think his future here is definitely long-term and definitely what Rockets fans want from him, especially because he did request a trade earlier in the season and he did rescind it, and he has been playing great as of late, or as that statement was put out. So we'll see what happens with KJ in the future. So we'll talk about it here pretty quickly. So KJ over the season, he's averaging around 12 points per game, around 6 rebounds, and around 2 assists on around 57, 34, and 64 shooting splits. In his 3 seasons with the Houston Rockets, he has progressively gotten better each and every season, as he was originally a second-round pick from the Sacramento Kings in 2020. That was the year Rafael Stone came in, and he traded for that pick, and they selected KJ in the second round, being pick number 52. And KJ has developed into not only an athletic finisher around the rim, but also a guy that can knock down the occasional 3, while also being able to lock it down defensively. So the thing I like about his game is that he's able to adapt and find ways to impact the game in other ways that isn't on offense, whether it be passing, whether it be setting some good screens. He's a good screen setter for his size, being around 6'7", 215 pounds, and also just, running in transition and running the plays right. I mean, he's a guy that I would say has a really high ceiling for his position. I think with the Houston Rockets, they're holding him back a little bit, with guys like KPJ and Jalen Green taking away the ball, or taking away his touches on ball, and having guys like Şengün who need to work in the post. I feel like the Houston Rockets are definitely holding back KJ Martin from his potential, and basically a team that needs a good and solid small forward that can just do everything that they need him to, can definitely help him develop more. I would like KJ to stay in Houston. I mean, I think he's probably one of the best things that has happened to the Houston Rockets as of late. Obviously, being one of the more hidden gems in the league recently. But if it comes down to it, I think KJ might be on his way out depending on what happens with the draft this season. KJ's development over these last 3 seasons has definitely been more or less something great to see, because back in that 2020 season when James Harden left, that season, when we had Christian Wood, DeMarcus Cousins, John Wall, I mean, there weren't really too many pieces to work with there. And, the future was looking pretty dark. And until we traded James Harden and got all those picks back, we got Oladipo, we got all these things, and we got KPJ in the mix too. It was looking a little bit brighter, but then KJ Martin out of nowhere started to develop in the second half of the season. Going into the next season after that, he was going into basically a breakout year in his own right. And even to this day right now in this season, he's looking like maybe one of the more underrated players in the league now. And, teams at the trade deadline were basically calling the Houston Rockets about KJ Martin and his availability. Yeah, I mean, KJ Martin, you can't really put a price on him because what he's able to do definitely isn't reflected in the box score at all. So, obviously, his game isn't the most complete. He's a very streaky three-point shooter, shooting it at 34%, and his ball handle could use some work. Other than that, he is basically the perfect guy for this Rockets team and has essentially found the team for his future, hopefully. I mean, I think after this season, he should be a restricted free agent, so we'll see what happens. The Rockets have not offered a contract extension yet to KJ, so unless that happens, I mean, we'll see his future with the Houston Rockets. Hopefully they can retain him. I mean, he would definitely be a great piece for this Rockets future when they are starting to contend. I mean, even if they don't have KJ Martin, they have a guy like Atari Eason off the bench, but I mean, KJ Martin for the culture, for the rebuild, I think he definitely fits here. He is also 22 years old, so definitely fits in with the time frame, and with the other guys, he definitely fits in with them. So now talking about his future in the NBA, it's definitely hard to determine, as he previously wanted out of Houston for Silas misusing him and basically not using him in the way that KJ is supposed to be used. Previously, Steven Silas had this guy more as a spot-up shooter, someone that's not going to be able to run the offense at all and just basically sat him in the corner, kind of like what Jabari Smith is doing right now. But Silas has found ways to incorporate KJ into the offense, have a lot of pick and rolls, a lot of pick and pops, have KJ run some dribble handoffs, and that's really the way you want to use him, in ways that you want to get him to the cup so he can finish layups and just basically get into the driving lanes, get into the post, get into the paint, and that's really where he does most of his damage, which is great. So it's been a lot better recently with the amount of depth at the forward position, and having a top 5 pick coming into next draft, you have to wonder what KJ's role is on this team. I mean, if you get a guy like a Victor, a guy like a Scoot Henderson, I wouldn't say Scoot Henderson's a lot less than Victor Wembanyama in terms of, the fit on the team. But, I mean, if you get Victor on this team, I don't know. I think KJ Martin might fall out of the rotation a little bit and maybe have him more as a 6-man, which definitely wouldn't be too bad. But with his ego and him starting to build more of his own identity on the team, we'll see what happens. I think he definitely wouldn't accept more of anything less than a 6-man type of role. So, and basically all I know is that KJ, he's a starting caliber small forward in this league, and the Houston Rockets, they didn't make sure that they can retain him no matter what. And all I know is that KJ Martin, he's basically a starting caliber small forward in this league, and the Houston Rockets, they didn't make sure that they can retain him no matter what, as he could be a very crucial piece to this team when they basically are ready to contend. Now, like I said, they do have other backup options like Jae'sean Tate and Jae'sean if KJ Martin decides to leave, which would be all right. But at the same time, I mean, he definitely fits in with the culture, and having that chemistry with KPJ, back in the G League, and Jalen Green, I think he definitely just fits in with them and what we're trying to build here. So you guys can let me know what you guys think about KJ Martin. I mean, he definitely is a fan favorite for this team. And as of right now, I mean, he's been going off, and especially in the last 10 games, 15 points per game, around 8 rebounds, and around 2 assists, 66 from the field, 37 from 3. He's been going lights out recently in the last 10. So this is definitely some potential right here. Very high ceiling for this guy. Definitely, the sky's the limit for this guy. And hopefully he can just get his chance to basically break out. I'm predicting next season he could be maybe an MIP candidate. I mean, he could probably get up to at least like 15-8, I want to say. 15-8 is definitely something KJ is definitely capable of achieving next season. We'll see what happens. But, I mean, KJ Martin, hopefully he's here for the long term. That's the end.